Welcome back to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This is the B Block, or second section of our weekly news show. I'm Alaina Pinto. This is usually when we check in on the international scene, which is quickly starting to have an American presence. Case in point is the multi-state operator Cresco Labs, based in Chicago, Illinois. Their products will now be available in Germany, which continues to be the fastest growing European market. Cresco Labs has an international manufacturing partner in Portugal, and they are partnering with a company called Blossom, and those products will be available with a prescription in German markets. Now let's check in on the UK with Dave Barton.
I'm Dave Barton from Thermidor with the UK Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. As Medical Cannabis Month continues here in Britain, 7 years on from legalization, the battle for awareness rages on. To that end, the All-Party Parliamentary Group, or the APPG for Medical Cannabis, has recently made a number of recommendations to the UK government, outlining the need for policy reform around patient access and clinician confidence, rebuilding guidance on real-world evidence, supporting UK producers to secure economic gains, commissioning a review to remove duplication and regulatory friction. Without urgent reform, we will continue to see patients suffer, and the UK will lose a once-in-a-generation opportunity to build a world-leading medical cannabis industry, states the APPG. It's estimated that the industry could generate about £5 billion per annum, but if cannabis was provided to chronic pain patients instead of other treatments, then the potential savings could amount to around over £23.6 billion. That's all for this week's UK report. I'm Dave Barton from Thermidor, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
This is Debi Facey with the Canadian Coast to Coast Cannabis News Report. So what we have in Canada this week is Canada's new cannabis amnesty law, Bill C-93, is offering a limited relief by providing burdensome record suspension instead of automatic expungements, leaving most of the 500,000 Canadians with minor possession convictions, especially Black and Indigenous people, without meaningful real charges. So they're not going to exempt all of these charges for the ones that do have minimal crime, but they're going to basically expunge it in a way so it's not going to be on their record anymore. Great. Next, what we have is a survey has come out for our new Prime Minister, Prime Minister Carney. The government would like him to actually step up and start creating a more modernized way for the policy to become more reformed, and so the illicit market doesn't necessarily succeed anymore and are no longer profitable, which is great. And next what we have is the Bluetooth dab rigs are coming into the market, and they're making a great profit, especially for our Canadian stores. They are making it so not only are they interchangeable, but they're also able to be utilized in many different ways with different concentrates, and that's amazing. So when it comes to the Canadian news, this is Debi Facey coming at you with the Canadian Coast to Coast Report. Peace.
In another state with a legal medical report is in Arkansas. The first 10 months of sales in that state this year has brought in a record of $240 million, which is really small in comparison with any adult use legal state, which is another reason why many states with medical only markets look to add adult use sales. That's true in Florida and in Oklahoma, where their ballot petition signature drive just failed. Kimmie Cannabis has more from that state, but first, time out for an AI-generated bong hit. Check out this creation by Kimmie.
All right, time to go big. Let's light this thing. Woo, that'll do it. Vegas, here I come. Look at that view. Kimmie Cannabis taking flight. Made it. Welcome to the Marijuana Business Conference.
I am Kimmie Cannabis from Can I Talk About It with your Oklahoma Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This weekend, Oklahoma's cannabis and wellness community came together for a powerful event, Nurturing Naturally, exploring holistic parenting, hosted by one of the most authentic and heartfelt leaders we have, Ebony Jones. Ebony is more than a doula, more than a chef, more than an event planner, and More than a cannabis educator, she is a pillar of compassion in Oklahoma. Her ability to create safe, educational, and deeply supportive spaces is unmatched. This weekend's event showcased her gift for bringing families and communities together through holistic wellness, plant education, and nurturing guidance. Ebony continues to elevate our state with her service, her leadership, and her unwavering commitment to the people she serves. She deserves all the praise for her contribution to our community. And over at the Oklahoma State Capitol, another powerful voice was at work. Ashton Cole stepped up as MC for an advocacy surrounding Leo's Law, legislation aimed at requiring stricter fentanyl testing before children are placed back into the homes of parents struggling with addiction. His presence, his passion, and his dedication helped raise awareness for a law that could save lives and protect Oklahomans' most vulnerable children. Ashton's work to this weekend reminds us that our community is full of people fighting for real change. And let's not forget, cannabis is harm reduction. From the grassroots to the Capitol steps, our advocates continue showing up where matters most. That's it from Oklahoma. Peace, love, and all that good stuff.
I am Jenny Germano with ICS Consulting. This is the Colorado Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. On Friday, November 14th, 2025, Colorado will be hosting a cannabis research roundtable. The roundtable is going to be hosted by the Institute of Cannabis Research. It is a multidisciplinary summit to understand Colorado's cannabis research needs at the intersection of scientific research, cannabis policy, regulation, and industry. This research roundtable has an incredible lineup. The Colorado Governor's Office, Pueblo County Marijuana Liquor and Licensing, the Colorado Department of Transportation, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, Colorado State Representatives, as well as operators. Colorado Leads, which is Colorado's cannabis lobbying group, will be there. CU Boulder, UNC, CU Anschutz, and the Colorado School of Mines, including regulators from across Colorado, industry leaders, and experts will all be at this roundtable. On top of these panel discussions, they're going to be breaking out into these roundtable breakout sessions where they're going to focus on topics like health, safety, and consumer protection, therapeutic applications and medical research, production, quality, and regulatory standards, education and prevention, industry development. Colorado cannabis industry are coming together for research purposes. I'll be attending the event and coming back with any additional findings that might be helpful for listeners. I am Jenny Germano with ICS Consulting, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
New York continues to be one of the fastest growing states in the cannabis market of the United States. That should not come as any surprise since New York has 20 million people and just less than half live in the New York City area. One of the veteran-owned social equity-run dispensaries in Harlem is called Silly Nice. They are specialists in craft grows and are a small operation without a lot of inventory, so they have to rely on their online merchandise to supplement their revenue. This past week, that online merchandise operation was shut down by Stripe with no warning. Stripe, or Squarespace, has never been friendly to the cannabis world, whether you are a legal licensed entity or even an ancillary company like Pro Cannabis Media. Just another example of injustice towards the cannabis industry. But in California, you might remember this summer when immigration enforcement made a surprise raid of Glass House Farms and arrested 360 illegals who were working on that farm. Well, Glass House fired the recruitment company that had been filling jobs at that grow farm, and their third quarter earnings were drastically impacted. Glass House informed their investors this would happen, and now that the figures are in, revenues that were in the low 60 million range in 2024 came in at $38 million. With more from California, here's Dina Nagib.
I'm Dina Nagib, Principal Consultant at Grass Goddess Consulting, here to give you the latest developments in California for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. First up, Nicole Elliott, Director of the Department of Cannabis Control since 2021, announced recently that she will leave her position at the end of the year. She stated that she is stepping down not because the mission is complete, but because the foundation is strong. The news received a mixture of reactions, and with legal sales continuing to decline, finding the right replacement for the position will be critical. It is unknown who Elliott's successor will be, so stay tuned for that announcement. Turning to local news out of South Lake Tahoe. The city has reduced its cannabis tax rate from 6% to 3% after businesses said the high city tax was forcing customers away. There was some opposition, but the measure passed unanimously. This is an encouraging example of reducing taxes to keep the legal market viable. That's it for California news this week. I'm Dina Nagib from Grass Goddess Consulting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Now that New Jersey has a new governor in Mickey Sherrill, the hope is that some of the laws in that state might be changed. The biggest one is that the prohibition of home grow might finally be lifted, but that hasn't happened yet. This week, the Senate in the Garden State introduced legislation that would overrule local cities and towns that voted to ban adult use dispensaries and allow the medical dispensaries in those towns to sell to adults too. Since it is well established that when operators move from medical only to adult use, revenues expand exponentially. That also impacts the local taxes collected from those sales. So if this bill is passed, it would be a big lift for the industry. INSA is a Massachusetts-based dispensary with 3 locations in the Bay State and 3 more in Florida. They're expanding. The INSA group is now launching a vertical for their medical operation in Pennsylvania. That state continues to make a lot of noise about adding adult use to their existing medical market, but state lawmakers continue to battle with each other over control and expansion. This past week, their governor, Josh Shapiro, who wants to expand into the adult use market, is still pushing for his legislature to send him a bill he can sign. This week, he signed the budget without any room for reform because after a stalemate over the past 3 to 4 months, the Republican-controlled Senate continues to thwart any progress on this issue. Well, now let's check on another of the original 13 states, Massachusetts, with Curtis Emery.
I'm Curtis Emery, a bud tender from Resonate, Worcester, Massachusetts, with the Bay State Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. A continuing story here in Massachusetts as the state moves forward in trying to pass an act to modernize cannabis here in Massachusetts. That bill will be debated on by the state Senate next week. The bill was in front of the House this summer and has finally made its way to the Senate as it moves even closer to becoming a reality here in Massachusetts. That bill will do a variety of things to modernize the cannabis industry here in Massachusetts, including increasing the number of retail licenses, increasing the amount of product adult use or recreational customers can buy per day, and increase the power of the state to add additional commissioners to the CCC, allowing a little bit more oversight from the state government. Speaking of that, Carrie Bennenden is the newest member of the CCC. She comes over from the Attorney General's office and was assigned by the AG herself and members of the CCC. The CCC welcomes her and praises her ability to deal with law transparency as well as her passion for social justice and equity initiatives. Should be a great addition to the CCC, who still have a long way to go to being a trusted body here in the state. Just recently, the Inspector General had actually made a comment reflecting on how there's still a lot of work that needs to be done at the CCC. It said that, very few, if any, organizations on the government level would be allowed to run in an environment as the CCC has it. So we're hoping that the CCC can get back on the right track, and hopefully this new bill, which would modernize the cannabis laws, would allow more state oversight, more transparency, and make it better for the customers and those who work in the industry. I've been Curtis Emery with the Bay State Report, Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Next up in Nevada, and the Tribal Nations Report with Tina Tasaka, where Nebraska is continuing to threaten the Omaha tribe with police action once their adult use sales begin on their sovereign land. Here's Tina with more on that.
I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies and Iconic Representation, and this is the Nevada and Tribal Nations Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Nevada legalized cannabis lounges years ago, but as of now, only one public lounge, Dazed at Planet 13 in Las Vegas, is fully operational, according to Fox 5 Las Vegas. They did not mention the tribally owned lounge Nuwu in downtown Las Vegas, owned by Las Vegas Paiute Tribe. Industry consultant Christopher Laporte discussed 3 big hurdles that are impacting the slowdown. First, public perception. People still think of lounges as simple smoke dens instead of full experiences like restaurants, theaters, or supper clubs. Second, real estate limits. Venues must be 1,500 feet from a casino, and many landlords won't lease to cannabis businesses. And lastly, funding challenges for first-time owners. The Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board has issued 28 conditional licenses and is trying to help operators with resource fairs and guidance, as shared by Steve Gilbert of the CCB. Creative concepts are in the pipeline: bowling alleys, massage spaces, infused dining, and Laporte predicts more lounges could open next year. Planet 13 Holdings, Nevada, is exiting its California cannabis operations, selling its Orange County retail store and other business assets, and closing its cultivation facility in Coalinga. The company says the move will streamline its footprint and free up resources so it can focus on what it sees as core growth markets, Nevada and Florida. Leadership framed the decision as part of a broader strategy to cut costs, improve efficiency, and concentrate on markets where Planet 13 has the strongest brand presence and scalability. A comprehensive new report from researchers at the University of California, Berkeley and Northeastern University reveals that cannabis cultivation in California threatens tribal cultural resources. In an article by Edith Friedman, UC Berkeley, the 2-year study shows much of the state's cannabis cultivation sits on flat, south-facing land near water, often the same areas as historic indigenous village sites or sacred places. After surveying tribal and agency representatives, researchers found that despite strong laws like Assembly Bill 52, major gaps remain. Agencies still hold most decision power, mapping of ancestral lands is flawed, and consultation is often a check-the-box process. To address this, the study offers a toolkit for tribes to strengthen their own consultation policies and a mapping tool to track cannabis activity on ancestral lands. That's it for the Nevada highlights and Tribal Nations. I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies and Iconic Representation for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Now that the feds have weighed in on the ban of intoxicating hemp products, the attention turns back to the states who can abide by the ban or continue with whatever rules are already in place. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said this week, in reaction to the federal changes, that he will have to take another look at the industry in his state. No one who is in the hemp industry is happy about the ban, and for years the industry has called for regulations and the FDA did nothing. So what about the future in Illinois for the Chicago clone guy? Well, here's Mark Allen to tell us.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mark Allen, the Chicago clone guy, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News, just outside of Chicago, Illinois. Thanks for tuning in. Today's hot topic, we're just going to jump right into it, is the quote-unquote hemp ban. This is, I don't know, I guess this is dear to my heart because I am literally a hemp farmer. I am literally a licensed hemp farmer, and all my fellow licensed hemp farmers in Illinois are freaking out. And, rightfully so, because, they slid this legislation they slid this ban into the government reopening, kind of just slid it in. And, Trump approved it, but that was Trump approving, getting the government back open, which should never been a shutdown to begin with. So whose fault is that for not voting on it? Now this is what we get. So anyways, but I'm going to get back to, I'm going to try to be politically correct. That's why I didn't really want to talk about this, to be honest with you, because I don't want to, but I'm going to. So this is what I think is going to happen. We got to take a step back and understand how the government operates. The government doesn't operate as a quote-unquote government to do the right thing. The government operates as a business because they are a business. They make money, they get power, they get control, and they are directly working with corporations, domestic and foreign, to do that. So the point is that this is operating like a business. This isn't done. It's going to get amended, and they're going to change it because even now Republican senators are coming out. Ted Cruz came out and said that we can't do this. We can't ban hemp because we all know that, we can't just do that. I mean, because Texas is making a ton of money off of it. Illinois is making a ton of money off it. If Illinois really wanted to ban this and thought it was bad, they would have banned it years ago. They're making a ton of money off it. Now, what I think does need to happen, what I do like about this is that any gas station you go to here in Illinois, Chicago, especially close to Chicago, but even where I'm at now in the country, especially these smoke shops, they are loaded full of these THC smokes, vapes, all this stuff that is loaded full of chemicals. Who knows where it's made? Who knows what's in it? There's no control. So what I think is going to happen is that they came in hot saying, we're going to shut it all down like they always do, like all big and mean. And now people are going to be like, wait a second, we need to talk about this. So now they're going to go back and they're going to negotiate. And I think they're going to bring it back to the fact that we have licensed hemp farmers. Let's regulate it. Let's protect the industry. Let's protect these farmers. And I think there's going to be a negotiation. So I think cooler heads will prevail. But at the same time, I think that this is going to knock a lot of this fake weed off the shelves that's full of pesticides, full of poison, and it's nasty. But at the same time it's doing that, it's hurting people like me and my friends in the industry. So that is as politically correct that I could be right now, and as quick as I could be on this report to speak for, I guess, myself, because I'm not speaking for anybody else, because I'm in a different position with the way I utilize the hemp permit compared to people that are, quote unquote growing hemp that gets you high. But that's a whole nother, that's how the law is written. You're allowed to grow that type of stuff. We are. But they're trying to, that's why it's changing now, but there needs to be some type of regulation and it needs to be controlled. We just need to keep it clean and healthy. But this is crazy right now. So we'll see what happens. But that sums up my opinion on this hemp ban. I'm Mark Allen, the Chicago clone guy, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Thanks for tuning in.
That'll do it for the Beat Block. Cannabis Coast to Coast News continues after this, and more of the interview with the General Counsel of the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, John Miller.
It's a matter of we have to do it, or else this whole industry goes away. But Jonathan, I'm curious if you have more to add there.
No, you hit it right. The one thing that we are looking at is perhaps trying to get this moratorium extended for another year, another 6 months. That could help us make a difference. But we've been talking about these issues for 7 years now.
Hi there, I'm Ava from WPCM TV, your friendly media host. Big news, MJ BizCon 2025 is coming up December 2nd to 5th at the Las Vegas Convention Center, the premier business-to-business cannabis business conference and expo, where over 200 speakers, over 70 sessions, and a massive show floor await. If your brand is ready to make serious noise in the cannabis industry, here's your chance. We've got a few open slots for short on-site brand media interviews with our WPCM TV news crew. Picture this, your logo, your message, and your team in front of a professional camera, captured during the biggest cannabis gathering of the year. And yes, we promise we'll keep the jokes light. Why jump in? Because MJ BizCon isn't just another trade show, it's where the industry connects, learns, sources new products, explores innovation, and builds relationships that matter. Spots are limited and moving fast. If you're ready to elevate your brand and grab national-level exposure with WPCM TV on site, let's lock this in now. Click the link in the description, drop us a message, and we'll save a media slot just for you. Let's make your brand one of the stars of MJ BizCon. See you in Vegas.